From Gujarat, the hardest test came when Kunvarbai grew old enough to marry. According to custom, the bride's father had, in the town of Junagadh, in Saurashtra, around the year 1414, a boy was born named Narsingh Mehta. He was so shy as a child that he could not speak a complete sentence until he was 8. He stammered. He withdrew. People assumed he would amount to little. But somewhere around his 9th year, he began to sing. And what came out of him was nothing like the speech that had failed him. His songs were clear, precise, fearless. They were addressed not to the village. They were addressed to the god Krishna. Within a few years, the whole of Saurashtra had heard at least one of his padas, his short devotional verses. 530 years later, you have probably heard one too. Vaishnav jana to tenere kahiye. He who feels another's pain is a true devotee. Narsingh grew up. He married. He had a daughter named Kunvarbai. He had no business sense. He had no land, no wealth, no patron. Whenever his family needed something, he simply asked Krishna for it. And the strange thing is, somehow, the thing always arrived. A neighbor would walk over with a bag of grain. A merchant would forget that Narsingh owed him money. A traveler would leave a coin in his courtyard. Narsingh said, "See? Krishna pays my bills." His relatives, who had to pay theirs in the normal way, did not find this funny. The hardest test came when Kunvarbai grew old enough to marry. According to custom, the bride's father had to pay an enormous wedding gift, the mameru, in money and gold and silk and ornaments. Narsingh had none of these. None at all. The wedding date was set. The day approached. The bride's in-laws sent word, "Where are the gifts?" Narsingh sat at home, in silence. His wife Manikbai wept. Their relatives mocked him openly. "Old man," they said, "your God will not pay this bill. You are about to be the disgrace of Junagadh." Narsingh did not argue. He picked up his cymbals. He sat on his porch. And he began to sing. On the morning of the wedding, a tall stranger walked into Junagadh. He was a Marwadi merchant. He led behind him a caravan of camels, 20 camels, the village said later, perhaps more. They were loaded with gold ornaments, with Banarsi silk saris, with copper pots, with cashews, with sweets in covered baskets. The merchant came to Narsingh's house and bowed at the door. He said, "I have a delivery from Sheth Damodar Das of Dwarka. The full mameru has been paid." He brought everything inside. He handed Narsingh a written receipt, signed in a hand the poet did not recognize. He bowed again, and he walked out, and his caravan followed him, and they vanished in the direction of the sea. The wedding was held. The mameru was spread out. The in-laws were astonished. The village was astonished. There had never been such a generous mameru in Junagadh. After the wedding, when Narsingh went to find this Sheth Damodar Das of Dwarka to thank him properly, no one in Dwarka had heard of any such merchant. The Marwadi caravan had never existed. There was only one Sheth Damodar Das anyone in Dwarka knew of. And he had died several hundred years ago, in the same city where Krishna himself was said to have ruled. Narsingh kept writing. Hundreds of padas. Akhyanas, long-sustained narratives. Some scholars say he wrote tens of thousands of verses in his lifetime, though most have been lost. The ones that survive are sung today across Gujarat, at weddings, at temples, at the morning hour when housewives sweep their courtyards. His most famous song, Vaishnav Jana To, became, 4 centuries later, the favorite song of a Gujarati man named Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Gandhi played it on the harmonium every morning of his prison years. He died with that song in his memory. Today, the town of Junagadh keeps the small house where Narsingh wrote his songs. Travelers visit. Children are told the story of the Mameru. Gujarat's most famous saint poet wrote for so long, in such poverty, that the math of his life never quite added up. Where did the money come from? Where did the bridegrooms find food? Where did the rice in his pots appear from each evening? The poet's answer was always the same. He pointed at his small clay image of Krishna in the corner of the kitchen. And he smiled. Tomorrow's story comes from another corner of India. Subscribe to walk with us through the folklore of every region, in your language.